Just a quick disclaimer in the beginning. I'm not responsible for the cancer you get from this. So if you're sensitive, please take a step back. It was a gloomy Saturday night. The sun had set and the street lights had been lit. Cherdenko was lonely. More lonely than he had ever been before. He longed for the love of his life, the one person who he had loved more than any other. DominantChris. As Cherdenko left the store to walk home, he reminisced on life and how he wanted to get closer to his roommate. He passed house after house, wandering along with no aim, no motivation to do anything. All he wanted was his love. Cherdenko had been roommates with Chris for a while now, yet for some reason they never got along. Originally, Cherdenko thought that Chris would be the love of his life, and indeed he was. Yet Chris never reciprocated his feelings. And when he did acknowledge Cherdenko, it was not enough to satisfy him. He had always admired Chris from afar, studying him, obsessing over him, yet he could never muster up the courage to really talk to him. This all changed when Cherdenko peeked into Chris's room. Cherdenko saw something that he had never expected. Indeed, even if he had, it would only ever have come true in his wildest dreams. He saw Chris, cock in hand, masturbating over pictures of him. Cherdenko was so turned on, he gasped. He felt something grow in between his legs and instantly knew what to do. He unzipped and started to watch Chris's hand actions. He matched them with his own. Up and down, up and down. That's when it happened. Cherdenko landed on the door and fell. At that moment, time seemed to freeze for him. So many things flashed through his mind. What will Chris think of me now? How will I explain myself? Oh shit. Yet Chris simply looked around and smiled. Chris simply said, "Hello, sexy boy." Cherdenko was taken aback. This was certainly unexpected, yet at the same time he was happy. Happier than he had ever been. Chris then said, "Get over here and finish me off." Cherdenko slowly crawled over in between Chris's legs and started at the enormous cock in front of him. He then started licking the tip. He kissed it while letting out a soft moan. With a grunt, he took the whole thing in, almost coughing as it slid down his throat. Yet somehow he managed to fit it all. By this point, Chris was in a world of pleasure. He had never experienced something like this before. All along he had wanted this. He had wanted to do this with Cherdenko, to get in a full relationship. Yet he had never had the courage either. Yet at this time, in the height of pleasure, he realized Cherdenko had been the same. He ordered Cherdenko to stop sucking and to place his hands against the wall and bend over. Of course Cherdenko followed orders. He looked around with a look so Chris knew that he wanted it. Chris was already moist from the previous few minutes. Knowing this, he placed the tip at the entrance to Cherdenko's ass. "Are you ready for this, you bastard?" Cherdenko's only reply was, "Just do it, Chris." Chris abruptly shoved it in with a grunt. Cherdenko was overcome with feelings of love that he had never felt before, while Chris was lost in pleasure. While this was happening, Chris was thrusting with everything he had. He knew he was close to finishing. Cherdenko knew this too, as he tried to move his hips in unison. As it drew to an end, Cherdenko said what he had always wanted to say. "I love you." Then he finished. Chris followed up by finishing inside him. They slumped onto the floor together, barely conscious, holding hands and smiling. By this time, they both knew that their feelings had been made known. Cherdenko and Chris kept this relationship up for a very long time. Not that it would have mattered. Chris just couldn't live without Cherdenko's ass. Thank you guys for watching. Huge thanks go out to Katz, who designed this beautiful background artwork, and to Angelos Mortis, who wrote this original fanfic. Bye bye.